Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another day of the video. Darren, how's it going today? Today it is a Wednesday, and it's my first Wednesday of this term. Because I've changed modules now, I don't have a lecture on Wednesday, which means that I am able to stay here. I'm able to stay and work at home, and to do with that, I've got code up already. What you've got to try and do when staying and working at home is you've got to try and stay in the same routine. You can't stay in bed a little bit longer. You can't just play Hearthstone for a bit. So what I've done was I got ready, got up same time as normal, got dressed. At 7 o'clock when I normally get in the car, I did my daily vlog, which I normally do when I get back from uni now. I sorted out my daily vlog, got that uploaded and all that kind of good stuff. We got Graham out, and then I was doing other things like I had to iron my shirt and trousers because I have essentially a job interview later. It's with the same company that I had an interview with the other week, but I've basically said that I want it and I'm going in for a chat. I don't know, I genuinely don't know. I think it might be some kind of I think it might be more of a technical interview, or discussing terms. I honestly don't know what it is, so I'm going in smart as per usual. Yeah, doing little tasks like that, like I had a shave, sorted out this, things that I wouldn't normally do in the morning. And now Laura's just gone, I'm ready to jump into programming. I've got the radio up like I would in the library. But we got Graham out this morning. Graham was running around in a ball, and we have done something. We have put her tube back in. So it's back here, look, there she is, just chilling. If you remember, she always used to sleep in her tube. And we took the tube off her, we blocked it off so that she'd be forced to sleep somewhere else, because what she started doing was just packing it full of sawdust, so that literally you'd have to take the whole thing off and take it apart to get the sawdust out, because it was so deeply compacted in there. It was ridiculous. I honestly don't even know how it's possible. So we took the tube off of her. Then I'm trying to stay out of the way. When she's in her house, we try and leave her alone so she's comfortable, so she can't even hear us. But yeah, obviously she can hear me over here though, I'm not an idiot. Yeah, so we took the tube off of her so that she'd sleep in her house, and she's sleeping in her house now. She's now, looks like, yeah, so it's been 3 days or whatever of sleeping in her house, and we have put the tube back in so she can run around in it. And we will see if she continues to run around in it, or if she starts packing up bedding and taking it in there and having a sleep, which is what we're trying to avoid. But who knows? Hamsters are weird, man. But she was just dragging bedding back into her house. But she is now diving around in her food. She's already got a food stash, and her smell and stuff's in the house, so we're hoping she will stay in there instead of making another food stash somewhere else. But we'll see. It's so difficult, hamsters are. Dogs and stuff give you a clear indication of what they want in life. Whereas hamsters just because they don't make a noise or anything, it's really difficult to guess what they want. But otherwise, programming wise, ladies and gentlemen, now that I'm able to read information from the test run, so I'm able to run a test run, gather the information from that I need. There's more information, but I'm kind of not really bothered about it yet. I am now feeding that back out to the startup controller. So the startup controller is the one that's initializing the environment. It's doing the initial test runs, and then it's a case of starting the mutations and stuff, which is the exciting stuff. That's the bit that's actively important and exciting. Get out your tube, Graham. I'm going to be doing that. Otherwise though, my meeting in town starts at 2 o'clock. I'm going to be heading down for 1 o'clock so I can have lunch with Laura. But otherwise, I have a couple of hours. It's 8 o'clock. I have a couple of hours before I need to make my sandwiches and I can go. But otherwise, it's literally just a case of get changed, head on out. But I'm going to charge my Surface, because I'm probably going to take my Surface down just in case I use it in a coffee shop or something, because I don't know how long this meeting is going to be. If it's a technical thing, then there might be a programming challenge, which could be an hour or so. So I'm going to take my laptop, and if I'm around long enough to hang around and wait for Laura, then I will do that. Christ. Don't let me down, Graham. I'm going to go do some work, yeah? I'm going to turn the lights off. There's a small food pile in there, but she's not gone into it properly yet. yet. I think it might be a matter of time, unfortunately. But saying this, she did make a food pile in the bottom corner, and then she moved it into her bed. She slept in her bed, made the food pile at the bottom, and then realised how much of effort it was to walk to her food. Unless she thinks the food is better protected in the tube, but she's more comfy in there. Who knows? We'll find out. Let's pack away the ironing board. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's getting to the time where I've got to start thinking about making my sandwiches, but I have now, all the tests passing, just checked in, but ladies and gentlemen, if I press start on this code now, it firstly builds everything, shuffles everything into this view. Let's bring this over there so we can see it. Starts building the solution. The solution's built, starts running the tests. This is just on one, it's testing itself at the moment. Runs all the tests, we get test results, all of them pass, 0 failed, 0 skipped. That's just direct printout from the thingy. We don't want that breakpoint there, because that breakpoint there is a bit silly. Get rid of that. And we return our initialized environment with all of that information in here in a nice, easy to understand way. Test solution ID, path to the results file, all of the correct results that we just got from in there, and happy birthday, ladies and gentlemen. It will then come out and then finishes, because I've got to do the next bit. But I'm ready to do the mutations. So I'm going to spend the rest of my day, apart from this interview and stuff, thinking about the process of which we go about doing that. Because this is where it gets interesting. All of this so far is remedial, essentially, without this next bit. There are building blocks along the way. But yeah, I'm happy with that, ladies and gentlemen. And it flies, it blitzes through as well. Considering that the tasks involved are quite expensive, it doesn't take, like, the time my system takes is a microsecond compared to everything else that needs to be done, because there's a lot of processing involved that's external from my program that my program relies on, but my program itself is fast. Cool. Let's go and sort out lunch and shizzle whizzle. Also, update on Graham. Nothing's changed. She's still in here. Making my way into town now with my squeaky bag. I've got my small bag because I've only got like my surface and food and stuff in it. It squeaks, it's irritating. So trying to remain as warm as possible, so I've got mittens on. Except not on your hand, because you've got to operate the camera. And I'm wondering now about how to design the next part of my program. It's an interesting question, because at the moment what I have is I have several different modules, then a core, which is like shared stuff, and then there's a main, which is like the spine. Anything in core is visible to anything. It's like shared DTOs and all that kind of stuff is in the core. Let's discuss structure then. So what I've got then, I've got acceptance tests separate, unit tests separate. I then have a command line module. The command line module communicates with the main module. It basically converts whatever you input in the command line into something the main module will understand. The main module then consists of, it's very simple, is literally just 2 controllers. And the controllers, one controller is like main program start, and the other controller is startup controller. Now the startup controller is what gets called first. So you call the command line passes it translates what you're saying, passes it into the main module, which passes it into the startup controller. The startup controller, still in main, using some stuff from core, forget core exists, then goes off to a different module, which is the file access module. That pulls the code that we're testing from wherever it's stored. At the moment that's like local file repository stuff. At some point I could move it to online Git repositories or something like that if I want to, and I could do those changes there and nothing else would be affected. It's an important thing that I'm trying to build into my system. Once that's done, it's returned back to the main thread. The main thread then puts it down through to the compiler module. The compiler module then goes off and compiles the information it needs to compile. So that stuff will be, that is also designed so that you could take out the compiler, put in a new compiler relatively quickly if you need to. Say if I have something which doesn't build with MS Build and I want to compile it with a Java compiler, I can just do that. I can just put in a Java compiler and it will work, nothing else needs to change. in theory. To compilation, it's passed back to the main module. Everything goes via the main module. The main module then goes, okay, now I want to run all the tests. It goes off to the test runner. The test runner goes off, runs all the tests, brings it back. I now have an initialized object, an iTest solution, or a test solution in my case. This object stores all of the information I need from this point. So it's got the original source files, the file that this, like the test solution that we're actually testing, like the area of the hard drive we're working in, the build status, the initial test run. So I've got a log of how many tests pass or fail on each run. Okay, so I've got that object all set up and initialized and ready to rock and roll. Question now is, the next thing I need to do is go into the folder that I'm working on, muddle about with it a bit, then I need to build, run the tests, refresh from source, muddle about a bit, build, retest, refresh from source, etc. I don't necessarily have to recess from source, I could just revert changes, revert my muddling, but let's assume we have to go back to the source every time. So the question is, how do I build that module? Do I build that module out on its own, but it has access to the other modules, which at this point are only accessible through the main module, or do I extend the main module to have all this logic in? Or do I change the logic out a bit and keep the main controller calling things like build and da-da-da, but I have essentially like the muddle around module to be like literally just make the changes you need for this, but then in which case if I do that, how does the muddle around module keep track of all of the muddling around it needs to do, or is that controlled by the main controller? That is what I'm pondering as I wander down into town right now. So a general rule I have is that past you is always smarter than your current you. If you ever go back and question something you did a while ago, it's usually the old you that's right, the new you, present you, is wrong. My old me had the idea that mutations would run in their own controller, but the way that it's gone so far is the main, because I originally had it so the main would literally only be a thread, it didn't have more than one controller in it. But the way that the main has progressed, I think it doesn't really make sense for that to happen. So the problem is it's going to spin up into a loop, like a big loop. It's going to take a long amount of time. That's what I'm pondering on my nice walk into town. Hopefully this cloud doesn't rain on me. Or these four kids over here don't like mug me. One of the two. Well early here. It does not take an hour to walk into town. So I've nearly done it in like half. Anyway, so here's where I'm standing, ladies and gentlemen. Here's my thinking. We pass the information pass all the information I have so far into the muddle about project. That controller then goes off and builds everything it needs to build based on information it's pulled from the app config or anything we've got so far. So things like the language that we're muddling with. Using that information, and maybe I'll leave space in to build a subsection of all of the muddle abouters we need to muddle about with. So we then get an army of muddle abouters back. We then spool up essentially a loop that will go through all valid files, because we're doing it by brute force to start with, all valid files, highlight them all, and then cycle through those files, firing them off to the muddlers to see if any of them match. If any of them match in any way, then they then asynchronously change it, send it back to the main, send it back to the core, and the core will go off and test the build, test the tests, come back, we'll then evaluate the result, If we can do that asynchronously, then we can spot a match, spin off this long running process, come back, spin off a long running process, while that's going on look for another match, make that change, and we'll do that in the second thread, because we're doing multiple threads at once. Oh, the problem with that is our building, we can't do more than one build at once, so we need to asynchronously fire it off but pipeline the build, so that's going to be a bitch. Wait, let's forget I said the word asynchronously for now. We'll do it magically, we'll just do one at a time. So you find an issue, fire it off, bring it back, you then find another issue, fire it off. Like, as soon as you take that asynchronous, you will save. You'll be up to 10 times quicker, it'll be ridiculously fast. So, you run, yeah, that's the way we do it then, ladies and gentlemen. Which means that, you push it back to the main controller. The main controller is then responsible for testing it, building it, yeah, building it, testing it, sending it back. The muddlers are then in charge of muddling with it in the first place, resetting what they need to muddle, and your controller within that project is in charge of everything else. I think that works. I think that's probably going to be the best way that we can do it. It enables us to really have that size of the project be huge and still minimise what it does. Because really you don't want it to do anything but muddle about. You don't want it to be in charge of building. You want it to be in charge of telling something else to. Well, it always would be, but it doesn't need to know how it's building or anything, only the main does. That's the important thing. Right, okay, I'm happy, I think. The only thing there is asynchronous, but like I say, performance isn't an issue for this project. It will be in the future, but it's not for now. I'm ready to start it, ladies and gentlemen. I am ready, but we're nearly in town. Really early as well, so I've got to find stuff to do. I mean, I've got to get to the bank and stuff, so I do think we need to forget about threads for as much as possible, like making this multi-threaded and parallel. While it's built into its core, so at some places it already does it and it makes it quicker, I think it complicates things unnecessarily, for one, and two, it's quite a big change to make it work properly. That's a lie. If I wanted to move to kind of like the pipeline asynchronous model, that would be quite a bit of a change. Because it's in the core and it's where the structure of the whole thing works. It's not like I can pop on and pop off parallelism. But if I continue in kind of like a batch process kind of way, like a super step kind of way, I could do it. Like, it won't take long to find valid muddles, will it? That won't take long. So if I just sit, highlight 10, then go off and spin up 10, that would be quicker than doing one, looking for the next, doing one. Yeah, okay. That's what I've decided on now. Just finished my interview. I say just finished. I've also just gone and got a new hamster ball because Graham is chewing the living crap out of hers. And home, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so that was... It was like a technical interview. The person I'd spoken to before wasn't there. It was two developers. And it was like a thing where they went through... It was similar to the one that I did to get into my old placement. As in, like, it was just kind of... to be fair, semi-difficult questions. Questioning about, like, C# and MVCs. And it's like, you know, when you use stuff all the time, you forget what things are called. And you forget, like, what things are. So I'm, like, trying to rack my brain for the textbook answer of these things that I use every day, you know? And I can't get my fucking mitten into my coat pocket. Yeah, they're like... What did they ask? They asked something along the lines of, like... The difference between abstract and a virtual class? Or some... No, I know that one. Yeah, they asked some questions, either way, that were, like, obvious. And I'm like, I've used that. I've used abstract classes. I've got abstract classes now. I've got virtual classes now in my project. But I don't know, for example, don't know the difference. So yeah, that was fun. But yeah, otherwise went through some stuff and it was quite good. I think I did okay. We'll find out. Otherwise though, I did a little bit of shopping. I bought Graham a new ball. She is, by the way, still, touch wood, in her house. So that's good. Bought her a new ball, but I got it back and there's like a little crack in it already. So we'll have to get her a new one. Take it back and get it replaced. And then headed on home. So I'm back now. I'm going to jump into some programming, I think. I'm going to implement that thing that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, well, I'm going to get changed first, but then otherwise that's the plan. Stan, let's hide that, shall we? Yeah, it was an interesting outing. Essentially what happened was, the reason I even had this was I had the interview with the guy first time around, and then we kind of come to the decision, like, he liked me as a person, but he said, like, there's no point me giving you a job offer because you're going to look for other things. But then he said, like, contact me in April if you're still looking, and then we'll look to, like, further the application. And then the recruiter emails me and he's like, oh, get in touch. And then he's on the phone and he's like, he's obviously pushing for the commission he's going to make from it to be like now instead of however many months down the line. But I mean, it was the place I was most likely to go back to. And I do kind of just want to essentially sign a contract on a job. I've got a lot of places I can ring up and see what they've got available, but I just want one, essentially, to just be like, right, okay, look, here's an offer, and I'm like, right, sweet, because I'll just take it. The first person to give me an offer, essentially, unless it's a terrible company, I'll take. Well, that's not true. There's some people I've talked to that I wouldn't take an offer if they fingered me, but you know what I mean. So I've spoken to a couple of companies that say, ring me when you graduate and we'll sort you out with a job. Spoke to a number of different companies that do that, and while that's great and it keeps my options open, I kind of don't really want my options open. So I don't want to go out and talk to more companies. I'd rather just talk to the one that I think I prefer now, and then just sign it and just get it and just not have anything to worry about. So I can do my exams, walk into a job, happy days, you know, and then yeah, just less stress than otherwise waiting to the end of my exams and then thinking, oh, which one shall I ring, or something silly like that. But saying that, some of them aren't exactly what I was looking for, so anyway. Laura has just come back and Graham is still team house, which is awesome. The true test of time, however, is what she is doing when we wake up in the morning. That's the real test. No, Graham, don't do it. This guy's wild. What are you doing, Graham? You're a nutcase. You're an absolute nutcase. Yes. Look at her. Yeah. No, you little bitch. So Graham isn't interested in staying in her bed. She's moved to a tube now. She hasn't even come out tonight either. She's like just moved herself in there and she didn't even want to come out. Sad times. But otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, what's happened? We had some dinner. I churned out a little bit more code. I'm just making sure that the latest version's uploaded. Also, you remember me tweeting the other day about hitting 200 tests? I'm on 294. Building up the module controller inside the main section, and then the module controller is going to be what initiates the thread of control. That'll initiate that, and then, well, that will essentially initiate, yeah, main controller initiates the muddlers, the muddler controller, and then the muddler controller can then call back up. That's the bit that, like, the structure of that is something that I don't quite understand now, but we'll see. But yeah, so that's that all sorted. Yes, tomorrow is going to be a bit of a long day. This video may struggle to go up on the right time, like live at the right time. So I apologise about that if that's the case. But I should be able to do it. I should be able to do it. This is me. I don't miss days. I don't miss upload times. If I do, it might be like an hour later than normal, in which case I do apologise. Anyway, thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. We're heading to bed. My knee has gone to sleep. I don't understand how that's possible, but it has. It hurts. Also, the pond outside has got a filter thing going on it, so I can hear it go. Cool. Alright then. Oh no, nice settings. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will catch you later.